Boom. Recording in progress. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our virtual meeting for September 29th, 2022, the Flow Spectacular. Fair warning, this is my first time hosting a user group meeting, so if something goes wrong tech-wise, it's my fault. Just be patient, that's all. Right, so we're going to be recording it. We will have slide decks, and the recording will be posted on our community. Feel free to ask questions as we roll along. Hold on. So here's what we're going to run down today. So we're going to start off with just a round of introductions of the people in the room. Quick, who you are, who you're working for, and anything really cool flow related that you might be interested in talking about. Then we're going to have John Sayer join us from Data Geeks Lab, using Flow to gamify Salesforce. I'm looking forward to that. And then something new after John finishes, depending on where our timeline sits, we're going to have a bit of a roundtable where we can bring up, let's say, a Flow use case and together try and say, well, why don't we try looking at that or try and solution together. We won't spend too much time on that, depending on our time, because we want to make sure we have plenty of time for Jessie Rim, who's joining us. Jessie, I hope I pronounced that properly. She's giving me the sort of kind of nod. Okay, I'll agree with that. And she's going to talk to us about the pros and cons of working with emails through Flow.
Sorry, I found the unmute. It's RIMF.
RIMF. I'm sorry. I've heard it a few different ways, but that's
hey,
perfect.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have Jessie on as well. I've been watching a lot of the documentation that she's put out through Salesforce, and it's been very helpful for me. So it's going to be good. And then just basically closing notes. So that is, well, touchy mouse here. We got more people coming in. That's great. So that is the way we're going to run it today. So starting off with introductions, I'll go first. Maybe the group leaders that are or co-leaders that are here, we can just jump in really quickly and then start picking people out of the pile or volunteer your name. I'm Sandy. I work in the nonprofit space as a partner. Being here, part of this group for about 9 to almost 10 years, something like that. And yeah, just starting to co-lead, and I'm doing everything with Flow. So if the opportunity arises, I do have a use case to bring up, but I know Fred does as well, and I want to hear from the group. So that's me. How about you?
Yeah, for sure. Hey guys, my name is Yu, and I'm a Salesforce administrator at Shopify, and I've been with this group like for many years. Similar like Sandy, and I'm a co-leader for the Ottawa Salesforce user group, and welcome for everybody new. And so this is Sandy's first meeting, and congratulations and good job, Barry, with that. Awesome. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Nash. I'm third co-leader. Actually, there is fourth one. I don't see his name today, but I'm member of this group since first days in 2006, and last 7 years I'm co-leader of this group, and looking forward to meet everybody and to learn something today. Thank you.
I'll go ahead. Hi, I'm Jessie Rimpf. I'm here from Salesforce. And based on the chat that I was hearing when I joined, I don't know if I'm going to have anything to teach you. I heard an explanation of Genie, and I have no idea what Genie is. So yeah, we'll see if I have anything to offer. I'm going to have to throw up a safe harbor statement at some point before I say too much. I'm in Seattle, not Canadian. I'm going to turn it over to one of my best friends, actually, my BFF here, John Sayer.
It's true. In fact, Jessie is my personal hairdresser, and that is not even an exaggeration.
That's true. I cut John's hair.
I'm John Sayer. I'm a consultant with Data Geeks Lab. We are not a Salesforce partner that works with nonprofit organizations all across North America. I've been in the Salesforce space for about, 10 years minus 2, whatever that is, for quite a while. A bit of background, though I am also in the Seattle area, I spent a lot of my childhood summers in Ontario, so I'm fond of Ontario. I'm fond of Ontarians, if that's the right way to say it. When I hear Sandy talk, I hear my family. So it is I'm happy to be here and happy to talk to you all today. And I'm gonna pop to who's not presenting, but also co-built the thing that I'm gonna show you all today, which is Beth Howard, also from Seattle.
Hey, I'm Beth Howard, she, her pronouns. I'm from Seattle. And yeah, I work with John at Data Geeks and do some other consulting on the side. Been in Salesforce space about 10 years. And I worked with him on this custom word game in Flow. And so, yeah, perhaps I will contribute to any questions you have, or such as why the hell did you bother? So yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks, Beth, John, and Jesse. To some of the other user group members, you want to just maybe jump in, say hello, who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey guys, my name is Dave Sharp. I've been in the user group for quite a few years now, I think 4 or 5, maybe even 6. I'm starting to lose count. I'm currently a revenue operations analyst with Ascent. I've been using Salesforce for about 15 years now, and I got certified about 2 years ago. We use Flow a lot at Ascent. I don't touch it myself because we have actual system admins doing the work, but we're definitely going to crack it open more. So I just want to figure out how I can learn and contribute back to the group.
And I'm Harry Silverstone. I've been around for a little bit, do consulting for clients throughout North America, from development through to administration and just business management.
David Corns. I'm with Help Systems, but originally one of the acquisitions that Help Systems made was Titus here in Ottawa, where I was the Salesforce admin. I lead a group of admins and developers here at Help Systems, and the big challenge that we have is that because we acquire lots of companies, we have 7 or 8 different live Salesforce orgs that I'm trying to juggle and manage, but we have flows to varying degrees in the various orgs, so always keen to learn more about flows and how we can possibly apply them in Help Systems.
Okay, I'm going to start introduce myself. My name is Qiang. I'm a Salesforce Marketing Cloud developer, but have integration environment with Salesforce.com. And I would like to join this opportunity to learn more about the flow, because I did have some exposure on the system as well. So glad to be here. I work for Monolith in Canada. I'm based in Montreal. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Lisa Hall. I'm with a company called WorkTango, and I've been using Salesforce for 14 years. I just got my certification in February, and I'm just learning flows now, so bring it on.
Welcome, Lisa.
Hi, I'm Susan. I'm a Salesforce admin in the past. Now I am a CRM admin for a SaaS company, and I'm returning because I think we're going to get back to Salesforce where I am now. So that will be fantastic.
Awesome. If you'd like to jump on and say hi, that's great. We are just keeping an eye on time, and I want to make sure that John has all the time he needs. But if anyone else wants to say hi, now would be the time.
I'm Stuart. I work for Canada Post out of Ottawa, and we are just implementing Salesforce. So I'm fairly new to it. I just got my Ranger badge like 2 weeks ago, so just kind of getting up to speed. Don't have any specific use case for a flow, but seeing as we're just doing global design, there's lots and lots of places that we will be using it. So I'm looking forward to this.
Well, that's exciting. I'll just say my name is Fred Chang. I'm a Salesforce administrator for Markham Homage, a global company, and I've been with the group for a couple of years. Been an admin for about 8 years. I remember my first flow maybe 5 years ago. I think I had about 40 versions before it worked. So it was quite complex. So it's been a fun journey, but what's great is to see how much easier they've made it. I really do really enjoy making flows.
Awesome, guys. I think we will have to jump in though, just to make sure we have the time we need. So John, if you'd like to share your screen and take it away, that'd be great.
All right. So I cannot share while you're doing that. You have to unshare.
Fair enough.
Okay. Oh, can I hit this button maybe? Okay, and I move that up there. I'm going to move you all into a corner before I start talking. All right. So, can you make a video game in Salesforce? Yes, you can. Why you would? Well, I think the bulk of this presentation is hopefully going to explain a bit about that. We already did introductions, but I'll just say it real quick. I'm John Sayre, consultant with Data Geeks Lab. He, him pronouns. If you want to contact me, there's my email address right there. And I made the thing that you're seeing, I'm going to show you today, along with Beth, who, if you ask very nicely, might answer a question you have about it. We've all, I mean, it seems like most of the people here have made things in flows, and you know, we've all have some familiarity with this platform and what it's capable of. You know, me personally, you know, I've made everything from a structured data entry flow. If you need to write to 10 objects, but you only want to have people fill out one form, Flow can do that. Nightly data cleanup process, you know, Flow can do something like that. In integration processors, you take in data from an outside source and then you process it within Salesforce. Flow can do that. Public forms, Flow can do that. A clean clone is what I call it, where you want to make a clone button, but it doesn't clone that one field that is going to break everything. You can do that with Flow, of course, and you can use Flow to fire Apex if you want. All of those things are things that I've built in Flow and things that Flow is capable of. What do they all have in common? They're boring as all hell. They're all business use cases, right? They're all things that are useful. Why? What is that for? Who likes that anyway? I am of the opinion that like, think of the early like hacker types, like in the 80s or whatever, like they're hacking away on these computers that are capable of like showing two colors. And they took those machines and they made games. They had fun with them. And then that taught all of us as a culture what these machines were capable of. I think that's equally true with Salesforce, that if we try and make something fun in it, then we can get a better ideas of like what we can do with it. I think it's very limiting to think of these machines as only what they're capable, or these systems of what they are capable of doing in terms of stuff that's purely useful. So catch up in my notes here. I want to emphasize, I'm not doing a training today. This is sort of, I'm assuming you have a little bit of Flow knowledge. And that is mainly, I'm going to be doing like a tour of this architecture of this app that we built. Flow is a big part of it. It wouldn't work without Flow, but Flow is just one part of an integrated whole that makes it work. As I'd like to say, like Flow, the power of Flow is that it is within Salesforce. It wouldn't be a useful thing were it not sitting inside of this larger data system that it has access to. So as I've said a little bit before, I really like the idea of taking something that is really boring and business-like and like doing something fun with it, something that the people who created it probably didn't have in their mind, something that somebody would do. And so for a while, I've been thinking about this idea, can we make video games on this platform? And the answer is yes, if you live within its restrictions. If you're about my age, and I'm 36, if you think video game, the first thing that comes to your mind might be Super Mario Brothers. Or if you're a bit younger, maybe Call of Duty or Tetris, or things that are very twitchy, or like things that have timing associated with them. Those types of games we're not going to make in Salesforce. I suppose theoretically you can make a Lightning Web Component that ran that type of game in JavaScript, but that's not fun. That's not building something in Salesforce. You're just doing stuff that all sorts of people have done before. But what can you do? Well, maybe you could make a game that's more asynchronous, that doesn't depend on timing, right? So if you're particularly nerdy or older, maybe you remember the text adventure games from the early 80s where, you know, you have this description like you are in an old hut and there's a road in front of you. Well, you can type go forward or something like that, and then it takes you to the next screen. That type of game is completely possible within Salesforce, or any kind of game where you might have anything that doesn't, you know, I'm thinking like chess or battleship or a card game. I've thought a lot about this and I think all of those types of things are possible. And I find that really inspiring to think, you know, to me, a blank piece of paper bears no inspiration. It doesn't give me any creativity, but looking at a set of restrictions and then trying to push them, I really like. So I kind of brought this crazy idea to Beth, and we talked out like what kind of game would be interesting for us to make in Salesforce. And well, I guess it was mostly Beth really wanted to do this because she's more addicted to it than I am, is to make Wordle. Can I get like a quick show of hands here? Is everybody here know what Wordle is? If I see 100% yes, do the like raise your hand or thumbs up or something. If everybody here knows what I'm talking about. We got 1 thumbs up, we got 3. Okay, we got a number. Okay, most of the people here have played or know how to play Wordle. Let's do the shortest possible demo. This is the real Wordle game. It got bought by New York Times, but I think it was just made by 1 person. What you do is you need to guess a 5-letter word. So if I type a 5-letter word, ooh, we're getting good. This is the actual game for today. The green means there's going to be a letter in that position that is the letter S in this word. We also know there's a letter A, there's an L. So I type force, we only have a C. Any guesses, real quick? Can we figure out this word without dragging this presentation on for too long? Any ideas of what we might have?
Slice.
Huh?
Slice.
I thought that
Oh.
was no E. There's no E.
Slack.
Ooh, let's try Slack. That could work. We're getting close.
Scale.
No, there's no E.
Skull.
I think it's
Scale.
scale. No, it's
No,
not
it's
scale
not.
because
You don't have an E.
you don't have an E.
Scalp.
Scald.
Scalp.
Scald. Yeah, it's scald.
It's scald.
No, scalp.
It's
Okay.
scald. Well
Fine.
done. Oh, and it gave me my win statistics. I've played on this browser a couple times, so you can see, I guess just one other time. I guess I played 3 times and lost once. So I've been working out this presentation. So what is this game? How does this work? How and to approach this, how would we make this game in Salesforce? We kind of broke it down to its like base components, right? What does this game do? Well, first of all, it has a list of words that are valid 5-letter words. It has a daily word that everyone in the world plays at the same time. If I refresh this window, it's just gonna remember that I've already played, and it's not going to let me play again. There's like a daily word. There's this interface where I can type in my guess. There is, if I were to put in an invalid word, it would say that's not valid. And it does a check to see, okay, do you match the letters? And then it shows me in that table, do the letters match? And you can see which letters you have and haven't used in this grid down here that looks like a keyboard. And then finally, it detects if I've won, if I have actually guessed the correct word. And when it does that, it shows me these statistics about my my playing history. And it also invites me to share it with my community. I believe this thing got so big on the social medias. I don't usually use those. I was playing it rather lonesome when I was really into this game, but it is, that's the components. And we found that fundamentally we could make all of these things in Salesforce. I will show you the version that we made first before I break down how it works. I'll clarify, we changed one key thing about it. Instead of guessing 5-letter words, we're guessing 6-letter words. So let's try, what we got some chat. We have, because it would have been cheating. I already did it today. Yeah, that's right. So maybe in chat or just yell out, like, come on, guess a 6-letter word in this case. Don't speak too quickly. Let's try waters, just for the sake of putting something down. All right, in this case, I know that I have 3 letters that match. We have T, E, and A. Maybe
how about health? HEALTH.
Health. All right, we're getting closer where we've matched that T. So we could just fill this out. It will take a bit. And I do want to, I mean, it's the same game. We understand how it works, right? So I'm gonna kind of walk through the components in Salesforce that makes this work. As I said, first of all, that we have a list of acceptable words. And the way we figured out to do that is just literally to import all the words in the English language that have 6 letters in them as records in Salesforce. And then for the 400 or so most commonly used words that have 6 letters, we assigned a date. This custom object literally just has one custom field that is this date. Those of you who maybe are tangentially aware of Wordle, they do know all the words ahead of time. It's possible to probably cheat and find them. And it's also, they only have, they're not going to, it's not every possible, like if I hit the sort here, a baiter, I guess that's a real word, or a batic, you know, these are valid words in English that have 6 letters, but they're never going to be the thing that you guess because nobody, I don't even know what a batic means. I'm sure it's a word. I don't think it was a lie, but a more common word like nation or worker, that is likely to be the word of the day. Second is the game is to some sort of way to validate that we are just, that the player has only, restarting my sentence. We need to make sure that the player has not played more than once today and that they are connected to today's word. And I'm sorry, we're going to spoil this. So get your last guess in, think about it in your head. What is it going to be? And I'm going to tab over here and we're going to find out what today's word was. It was update. How appropriate. How a very Salesforce-y word. All right. So this custom object record is just literally a connection between my user and today's word, the word object record for today. And there are a number of formula fields and text fields that I'm going to get to in a little bit that kind of define this thing as make this whole thing work. This is created, this record, in a subflow that runs once the main flow that I'll show you in a moment runs. First of all it does is it's looking up, okay, do we already have a game today? So if I come back to this page and I refresh it, it knows, okay, John's already played today, so it's going to load the game I've already started. And if no game has been made today, then it creates it. And then it actually loops back to the beginning because there are so many formula fields on this object that make this game work that we have to do another get step to get the values of all those formula fields and put them into memory and then output them to the main flow of the game. Okay, the next part that makes this work is the actual main flow. And I found during when I'm going to close all these extra tabs because I'm going to get lost. Okay, so the main flow is the interface that we are working in. First, it gets today's game. And the main screen is actually pretty simple when you view it within the flow builder. It's just a bunch of, I don't know what these things are called, merge things. I just make them. I don't know what they're called. Other values held in memory being deployed onto the page. And then key to the whole thing is this guess, text input box right here. It has a little bit of validation on it. So if I put in a 5-letter word like, or a 4-letter word for that matter, like kind, it knows, okay, it has to be a 6-letter word. If I put in, let's do a completely fake word. Oh, this makes sure it's 6 letters. Yep, okay. It knows because it does a lookup at this step. First thing it does, okay, look up that word. Does it exist? If it doesn't, then it tells me it doesn't exist. If it does exist, then it does a little bit of thinking to figure out, okay, which guess are we on? And then it writes to the appropriate field on the my session record here. Just a moment. So it writes each of my guesses to these fields here. And if I type another one, let's do kinder. There we go. You'll see immediately that field, guess 3, gets populated because it knows that guess 2 is populated and guess 3 is not. Okay. So one thing that might have caught your eye if you're experienced using Flow is what the heck's with this table? This isn't your typical sort of Salesforce interface. Well, to make that, we are basically, it's an HTML table, spoilers, but it's completely driven by Salesforce formula fields. An example of one of those, it's pretty simple actually, is to create an HTML table row in a formula. And it looks basically at every single character in your guess and says, does this match or is it in the word? So if for those of you who are not big on HTML, I'll kind of, I'll do my best for you. You know, simply, okay, first character of today's word, does it match the first character of the guess? If it is, then it outputs this lawn green color. And if it doesn't, then it outputs yellow. Otherwise, it's white. And if I go to my session, I'm going to zoom out a bit, you'll see that this is the HTML row. And you can see that it figured out, okay, where was that actual one that matched? I think we didn't match to the second row, right? Yeah, health. So it was the T, here we are, it says lawn green. And that CSS sort of, you know, background color gets rendered right there. Let's go back out a second, because I don't like the way it looks. Okay. And to, you know, as you probably think, you know, usually if you just merge a formula onto a page, you're going to be using, it's just going to put the raw HTML. That's obviously not very useful. To get this to, I close my tabs again. There we go. To render properly, we use a text template. This is it right here. And all it does is by selecting view as plain text and putting the table, you know, open and close tags around it, that makes our guest table. The eagle-eyed among you might notice that if I do, what I guess better might be a good try here, that there is an E in this word. And real Wordle will only show you if there's one E in the word, it will only highlight one of them. I haven't done that. We haven't done that. It would just seem like too much work. So the eagle-eyed among you probably would notice that that is a difference. But this was for fun, so why go through that effort? Finally, the other thing that makes this work is seeing what letters have not been used. Again, the Wordle folks, they've got this fancy keyboard looking thing. We're doing this for fun, so we just think, why don't we just show them the words right here? It's very simple. It just uses 2 formula fields to work. The first formula field, so simple. It's almost embarrassing how simple it is. Oh, not that one. This is the complicated one. My apologies. Is it literally just concatenates all of the guess fields together, like so. And then the more complicated one just says, okay, does that entire string contain the letter A? If it does, then don't show anything. And if it doesn't, show the letter A. And it goes through the whole alphabet like that. Finally, the game needs to know if we won. I forgot what today's word is. Let's see here. Update. So finally, when I type update, we see it's all green as we would expect. And it's also hidden away our guest field. And we're on like a different screen. It's like, hey, guess what? You won. Well done. Within our flow, that's the first thing we do. There's a formula field that basically looks to see if any of our guesses are equal to today's word. And if it does, then it takes me to a different screen that's kind of doesn't continue and doesn't do anything else. And there we go, I won. And since I've been testing this so much for practicing this presentation, Beth, I'm well ahead in our statistics. If we look here and I hit refresh on this dashboard that we've loaded here, we can see everybody that's in this org that plays this game, how many they've played, how often they've won, how many average guesses they've made to win, the rate of victory, shall we call it. I can also
like
see
to point out I've won all of my games, however, unlike certain other people.
Ooh.
Shots fired. And you can also see, I think I have to refresh this again. Why didn't that show me that I've won? Oh, you can't, whatever. So also shows me the words that I've looked at most recently, the ones I've played. Yeah, I hate to give this a use. Do you know what I mean? Like, I made this to be kind of useless. I don't know why Beth made this. I'm still confused why she's going along with me on this whole thing. But the like the idea of, like, you know, I want this to just be something that's fun and doesn't need to be a use. But if you insist on, you know, how could this be a useful thing? You know, we were brainstorming that and it came up the idea, well, if you have adoption issues, if you're struggling to get people to log into Salesforce to, you know, put stuff in, it might be a nice little bribe to kind of get people in there. It's like, well, if you log into Salesforce today, you can do today's Wordle word. And then you can see who's doing really well. And if so-and-so down the hall or in the other department or whatever that you just hate is doing too well, you can do better than them, right? Maybe your boss doesn't like the idea of people logging into Salesforce to play video games. But little do they know that we're all working from home and playing Wordle anyway on company time. So it's not a big deal. Honestly, that's my opinion. So, I mean, that's the whole tour. I mean, as you probably picked out, the thing is, you might be a little disappointed. I thought we'd come to a flow presentation and this thing was like half formula fields, but that's kind of something I also want to point out is that it's part of an integrated whole. We could have done that stuff in completely in flow, but because it just seemed easier to us to do it in formula fields, that's how we put it together. So I've run out of stuff to talk about, and I'm hoping that maybe the other folks here on the call might have a question or a thought or something to say. Yes, Jesse.
What was the hardest part to figure out?
Beth, how about you answer what was hardest for you, and I'll think about that.
What was the hardest? Honestly, the the hardest part for me is playing because my brain is stuck in 5-letter word mode.
Oh, got
it. In terms of making it, it wasn't super hard. I mean, John did the HTML. That would have been tricky for me because I'm not super familiar with HTML. Here's another tricky thing. I also just realized if you look at the guesses to win table, I made all of these tables in dashboard. There's an error in Andrew's average guesses to win. I did not think to account for a situation where someone might not have won any of them. So it's a divide by 0 problem. So poor guy only played once, lost, hasn't tried again. So he's not here. So yeah, so that's a thing that I guess maybe I would consider tricky. Like I didn't think ahead about those kind of scenarios.
Yeah, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I appreciated seeing your use of HTML within formulas and flows. It's not something that, like Beth, I have really any experience in. So it was kind of cool to see that brought forward, you know, just piped in from unofficial SF, for example, or something else like the framework. You built that yourself.
Mhm.
I can see use cases for onboarding. Like some of the organizations I've been with, they have their particular terminology that they really want to drive into their users' heads, which kind of limits the ability to have, a huge list of words, but it could be a leverage as a training tool, possibly.
Mhm.
I had a question for you though, John, about the subflow that you're calling.
Yeah,
I noticed that you're calling that as the first thing that happens
yeah,
from the main flow. So can you show us that again? Can you surface that just so
Yeah.
I can understand what's happening a little bit more?
yeah. And if I just to answer the earlier question of what was the hardest thing, I think it was this architectural decision of doing it this way, because, and also just figuring out how we would do it this way. Because once we decided that we were going to do a whole bunch of formula fields, it made most sense for all of this to kind of live in a separate lookup. So to go over it again, sorry, this is me getting lost in my, here we go. So this is the main flow in which we allow you to make a guess, we look up the word and all that. And then all of these they're writing to the record, the game session record. And each of them link back to, maybe this is less clear because we're using the auto layout. And I don't know if the free form is going to make this any better. Let's see if it does. Yeah, they all just do this terrible right turn here and go right back to this. So it's like a constant loop where you're coming back to the subflow that starts the whole thing. And all that the subflow does mainly is that it just refreshes the variable of today's game session. That's all it's really doing. So go back here. Let's open that up. All that, you don't need to put any variables to this actually, because all it needs to know is today's date and the current user. And it outputs what it looks up to this word game variable. And so, all it does is it gets it. If it exists, which it will be if you're actively playing the game, it outputs the word game variable and sends it to the main flow.
I guess what I'm wondering is what is triggering that subflow to fire in the first place? Because you're starting from a screen flow. So is it simply the act of loading the page?
Exactly.
That'll kick it off.
Exactly.
And then any kind of input in there will then kick it off again and again and again until you go somewhere else.
Exactly.
Cool. I just learned something.
Beth, you're talking, but your sound's down.
I have started other screen flows by immediately calling subflows. It's super convenient. It just loads when the page loads. Did it for like data entry and other similar screen flows.
Yeah, just for sake of others, when I use subflows, it's a reusable piece of code. In this case, it's not reusable, but it is giving you better reading options here. Kind of, you isolated piece of code, you have it aside because it's something that doesn't change very often. I think you don't need to touch it in the future. And
I think why we did that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Just wanted to point that two use of subflow is it can improve your readability of the flow and isolate piece of function that may not need kind of review when you are there often. And the second one is reusability, then when you want to use it more times in different conditions or in different flows.
Yep, that's exactly how I've used it. For clients, I had a use case where a few different data entry activities needed to start with getting account details. And so I made a subflow to get those account details, and it just reused that same subflow for all, I think it was 3 or 4 data entry tools. And then some of them had slightly different account details that needed to be gotten. So I expanded the subflow a little bit, but it was the same flow. And it's got, as they need to update that, it's going to be super easy because they all use the same process.
I was going to say, right before, as I was trying to interrupt you, that I think we were doing this. It was as a team, right? There were 2 of us working on it. And I think we were trying to divide and conquer, like, okay, you take on this and you take on this. And that's really good on a team. Like if you know, okay, we're going to handle this function and you're going to handle this function and I'm going to handle this one, you can divide and conquer that by using a subflow. So you don't have to like, okay, which version are we on? Which version did you just work on? You know, you don't have to do that. I mean, this was my work and maybe this is y'all's experience, that mainly in a flow, one person kind of might build the whole thing. But once you add a second team member to then subflows will probably make your life easier.
So is a subflow like a function?
Yeah,
Is it a program?
if you're used to programming, it's exactly like a function. Or a method or whatever other language might use in the particular language that you're familiar with.
And when you're initially designing, do you have some way of charting this out? Is it just on paper and then you start to write your flow, or can you chart some of this in flow and then fill in the blanks?
I feel like, I'll speak for myself, but I feel like flow moves slower than my brain, you know? So like the amount of time it takes to go into an element and click edit and then add a condition and then figure out which thing I'm on, you know, all that type of stuff. I basically built it by then. I think I had just sort of have a picture of it in my head. If it's really complex, I might build a Google drawing of it and just kind of think of what components or what things it has to do. That's for me. What about you, Beth?
Yeah, I usually scratch them out on paper. Sometimes I will, like, once I have like basic outline on paper, sometimes I will like add the basic elements in flow first and then go back and add the details later. But it can be, it seems like you have to have a lot of the details already worked out before you start building it in flow. So that's why I usually start on paper. I have also used like Google Drawings or, you know, Lucid Chart or whatever, but I find those are slower than just sketching by hand. However, if you want to present it to a client, Lucid Chart or whatever is a lot better than my like scribble on scratch paper.
Yeah,
I have also sometimes when I document, just type up the flow path kind of like you would with pseudocode, like just, you know, it's going to start with a decision. I say what the options are, and then, you know, for each one, what it does, and then where you go to next. And that actually has helped me provide documentation to clients too. It's like a way they can basically see what it does without having to go into the flow and like look through every element.
It's interesting to bring that up though, because at the Dreamforce, the flow team was talking about that, and they've talked about doing something as a sort of like a way of drafting a flow within flow. But yeah, they haven't built that.
They used to have that, and it just took longer to build out. Does anyone else remember that? There was like a planning thing in it, and it just took forever.
It was in the old Cloudflow Designer, I think, before Lightning. Okay. But yeah, I used it a little bit in my first flow many years ago, but you're right. I didn't feel like it was any advantage over just scratch paper.
At one point, I was using a product called elements.cloud, which does a really great job of process building or mapping. But at the same time, it's integrated to the org, so you can have like an impact analysis, right? So depending on how, I had some complex flows I was trying to work out and chart out. But then I could see, okay, if I'm going to be touching this particular field or this particular part of Salesforce, what's the impact? Like, what's this flow going to screw up down the line?
Wow, so I found that's really cool.
Yeah, it's not the cheapest. It wasn't that expensive, but it was really helpful for complex flows when I wasn't really sure, you know, when I turn it on, what's going to happen.
That would be super useful.
Yeah. There's a joke I sometimes tell to people who understand this, which this crowd might actually understand it. Oh my God, I get to tell my joke, right? Is that the thing that made me the most unproductive when I was making flows was back when when this was all we had, was just aligning these things. Okay, all right, get that right there. There we go, perfect. And this one goes here. Oh, I don't like that. Where does it go? You know, this was probably changing to the auto layout. I hated it at first, but it's been, I'll just say, clap to whoever at Salesforce made that decision, because this saved me a lot of time.
I think it's a great feature. I think it helps, like, also new people coming into your org to be able to, because it's a standard, you know, you just kind of like, you know, the structure.
And you can Jesse likes the old way.
I don't use it.
Some people
I
hate it.
switch back and forth, depends on what I want to do. I find if it's too complicated, the like adding multiple connections can be hard to see in the auto layout. It looks cleaner here, but it's harder to follow that, like this subflow, for instance, generate today's game runs like a whole bunch of times.
Just for context of some of the people on the call, if you're new to flows, there's two different ways that you can well, that auto layout versus freeform. It's when you're designing it and placing things. The freeform allows you to move things around, and you can see it's quite busy. And they just relatively recently brought out this auto layout, which cleans up what you're doing. But you know, to some people, it's not as easy. It depends on how you like to work, I think.
Yeah, I think I still switch to freeform when I have stuff like this where I want to do a loop back, because I think it doesn't. The other way of doing that in the auto layout is you hit the plus and then you connect to an element and then you select the element. I guess that makes sense more or less, but I don't know. I find it easier to just draw the line.
Yeah, I just found out about that feature, which I think has been around for a long time. I was always switching back to freeform and drawing a line as well. Anyways.
I see some chat things. Maybe I've missed these. My apologies.
I think we're good.
You love it. Thank you, Susan. Yes, you can. I was literally, I cannot operate in PowerPoint if I have too complicated of one, but I will do the thing, like literally before this thing, I'm like, okay, let's move Mario.
Awesome. John, thank you very, very much for presenting and showing us this. It's cool. It's inspiring. I like it.
Yeah. Real quick, drop in chat if you have any ideas of what my next game or our next game, if Beth, if you want to do this again and not just dragging you along. And you too, Jesse, or anybody else who feels like they really want to participate. What do you want to see next? What do you think we should make? Drop that in chat.
Cool. All right, so what I'd like to try to do now is to spend a couple of minutes trying something totally new and having an open conversation about flow use cases that we might be facing or some ideas, and basically use our collective knowledge to come up with some ideas. And Fred, I'm going to put you on the hot spot because just before this session, you were like, hey, there's this thing I want to do, and I'm not really sure what the right way to approach it is. You want to talk to us a bit about that?
Sure, happy to. I mean, I want to make sure that anyone who needs help, I guess what I'd say is type something in the chat if you're working on something you really need some advice on. But I had something that I was working on, and so let me go ahead and just share the use case that I was talking about. So basically, I mean, just to keep it very simple, the use case was around emails coming in that were creating duplicate cases. And my flow application to this was, well, wait a second. When an email comes into Salesforce, I actually can grab that, there's the email message record. And I actually can grab that and analyze it and look at it and do something based on that. That's what I find is magical about emails in Salesforce. So many people are using email in Outlook, but email in Salesforce, I love being able to automate things. So it just is, and I can add fields to the email message object. I can do all kinds of things. But what I decided to do was to look at the subject. Now this is a low-hanging fruit for us. The subject oftentimes will have the case number in it, but it will create a separate new case because they're creating a new email, or they have somehow changed the subject enough, which, okay, thank you, no thank you, service team. I still need you to find a way of not creating new message threads. This is the tough thing about the new way of message threading in Service Cloud, where new message threads are created, and so that's new cases. If someone changes the subject of the email. But anyway, to look at the subject. Now, what's interesting and what matches what we're talking about here, because I know I'm getting a little bit in the weeds here, is with the flow we were just looking at with John, you knew the number of characters, right? You had to have 6 characters and you were looking at each character, right? or there was a formula basically that would essentially look at each character. For me, it's not the same thing. I don't know how many characters, and I'm looking, for me, I need to know, are they numbers or text? And are they a number that's adjacent to other numbers, or are they a number that's adjacent to other text or to a space? So what I ended up doing was creating a loop to basically go through, look at each character, decide what to do with it, and assign variables. Basically, start to store information based on that until I felt like I was done. And then if I found a case number, then I could say, this is a new case, but there's an existing case that this is related to. I think, at least according to my very simple, comparison. I need a human to look at these cases, these new cases, and say, should this be merged or should this not be merged? So I don't know, that might be way, I don't know, in the weed, obscure, but that was my use case.
Just one question, Fred. Do you have your format for case number is just number?
Format is just number.
Is there a hashtag?
Okay.
And no, it's not required. I mean, well, here's the thing. I also knew that I'm looking at the subject of an email.
Yeah, I understand, but I will give you just one in November on user group. I'm going to present something similar what you're doing here.
Yeah.
But what in my case, client used word case dash and then case number as something to have in subject. And then whenever I have this in the subject, it's easy to substring this with formatted number length, and then you get easy number out. You don't have to go to the hooks like this. One thing that you can do here much easier, and when I like invocable methods, and if you're a developer and you know how to make them, I would just move this to the apex, send the subject line to it, and return whatever you're trying to find there. It's much easier to do those things in the apex, and then it's much faster. Then you don't have overhead in loop that's trying to do something there. But
true.
this
It's
would
true.
be
When I was doing research on this, I did see that you could do this in Apex, right? You could just pull a number out of using Apex. Keeping that in mind, I did run this asynchronously. I was thinking, okay, I don't want to stop anything. In fact, it's okay for it to create a case, but I'm going to run it async, and then when it's done, it's done. But you're right. It would be faster and more performant to do this in Apex.
Maybe I'm taking this back a step. If you do auto numbering on your cases, would that get reflected in the subject line?
Yes. The problem is capturing that, grabbing that. When an email comes in, and its email to case has not attached it to an existing case.
Yeah.
Because it will fail. There are cases where it simply won't work. That's the use case, is like, okay, when it fails, how do I at least make it easier for the users to take it and merge it with the right case?
Yeah. And if I can, I'm going to oversimplify things here really quickly, just to see if I can say back the problem in my own words and see if it makes sense. Tell me if I'm wrong. An emailed case comes in to the system. A case is created, and then your team responds to that case. And that response has a reference to the case number in the subject line. The recipient then goes and uses some other email or takes you outside of that way of tagging it to the original case, but they still have that subject line with the original case number, and they send another email in and another case is created. So you're having an issue of duplicate cases. Is that right, Fred?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
Is there not a like a function where you can use, or in a formula, contains or left or something to say after these characters?
Yeah.
The problem is that they can be anywhere. There is no structure in subject that you can rely. And because he doesn't use keyword for the case number,
Yeah.
you have nothing to search for in this. But yes, in case that I use for my client that has case word dash and then number after that, I know that number is long 6 characters, and then if I find case dash in the subject, it's just formula that's telling me there was case before that was used for it.
But it's a good point that the case, there is a set number of numbers. And so people could drop the zeros if there's leading zeros, but let's assume if that's a good point. If I knew there was always going to be 8 numbers, I know in code, I can go and get that. But in flow, would that be a formula? How would I just look for 8 numbers?
Jesse's nodding. I think she's like, yep, it's a formula.
I mean, that's where I would start.
Yeah.
Is seeing if, count the number of characters.
Well, I get the total number of characters, but how do you say, okay, in flow, how could I say contains 8 numbers that are consecutive?
But you need to use formulas in flow, like create variable in flow, and then use this value and use formulas to massage it to return your result. And then you compare this result, is it number, another function in formula, and then you kind of create 2 formulas, one to extract number, 8 character long, that's not text character, and then compare it, and then use it as kind of maybe in another formula to be sure it's number, but you don't have to do. But try to reuse formulas in the variable by creating variable that is formula that's reading subject line.
Okay, I'll have to look at that. Okay.
So Fred, do we have a seed in your brain?
Yeah.
That's what we wanted. That's awesome.
Only new to try.
Okay, cool. So what I'm going to suggest is that we carry on. Fred's posted his use case in the community, so feel free to jump in if you wake up in the middle of the night with an idea like, oh, he's got to try this. That's always a good thing. I also have another use case. If time permits at the end, we can chat about it. But I want to make sure that Jesse's got all the time she's going to want to show us what she's got to talk about. Jesse, you want to take it over?
Oh, okay, sure. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Oops, let's see. Okay. Oh, okay, let's see. I lost y'all. Are you seeing my? You got it. Okay, cool. This is a forward-looking statement, which means please make your purchasing decisions based on products and services that are currently available, not anything. Oh, I lost the last part of that. Not anything I might be saying in the next 20 minutes or however long I have. Okay. Cool. So let me see, where did it go where I can see what you're seeing? Oh, I lost the Zoom. Okay, now you're seeing my son. Okay. All right, so I'll just go ahead. So first thing, I want to apologize. My son has been sick this week, and so I don't have a very formal presentation. We're gonna be looking at things and talking about it, and I am open to critique if there are things that I get wrong. So I have not been a Salesforce administrator for 4 years, so I'm not actively building things regularly. I am teaching people how to do things. So y'all are probably much more familiar with the day-to-day of what you can do. I have to do tests and research things and see if what I know to be true is true. So what we're talking about today is email, how to send email through Flow. So I was very curious about how to do this. So I just set up of all the different things that work or don't work. And one of the first things that came to mind is, I don't know if y'all were paying attention to this recent round of idea exchange voting, where the top voted thing that didn't get picked is expose cross-object merged fields in email templates. So this ID Exchange, people are like, please give us this thing. And Salesforce was like, sorry, that thing is really hard to build. So we're not going to give that to you right now. So people are very upset about this. It seems like you can use cross-object merged fields in email templates, but it doesn't really work. So I wanted to see exactly what that meant, but also look at what are the capabilities in Flow. So I have a flow here somewhere. Okay, here's my flow where I built out all the different ways I could think of to send email through Flow without installing a managed package. So we're going to start with looking at this, the most basic things. So I have a record triggered flow here. This is going to fire when I edit a contact, and it's going to send me an email. So this is the send email. No. This is the email alert action. So when I go to actions and drag it onto my canvas, because I am in freeform, I type in the name of the email alert to find that. So this is my more basic classic template. So then I would select that and give it a label and tell it what record I am dealing with. And this is a record triggered flow. So the record I'm using is $record. I already have this built out, so it looks like this. Just has a label and the record ID that it's going to reference. So this one is my email alert here. See if I can find it. Okay, my more basic classic template. So email alerts have been used with Process Builder and Workflow for all of time. So here's my template that, so I found online here, just an example of an HTML email template. And so I grabbed that and put it in here. So this is I have my HTML version of my email that has some styling in it. And I merged in a contact field and a account field. And it looks like this. So let's just run my flow and test it out. So let's save this and activate it. And then I need to edit my contact again. So I've been adding a letter to this guy's name every time. And then we'll see what the email looks like. Okay, testing classic HTML template. So, hi there, Chris, at the Chris Temple blah, blah, blah household. So that worked for pulling in a contact and an account field. So that's just a really basic, using an email alert in a flow. Let's see about, so then I was just wanting to use, this one has a more fancy email template that I got somewhere else on the internet. Activate. Change his name again. But still just a classic HTML template. And did you know you can put GIFs or GIFs or whatever in your classic email templates? I didn't, but you can. Did I merge any fields in here? No, I didn't. That's okay. So email templates with classic work great. So in this case of a record triggered flow, this would be sending out to one contact, right? When this person record changes, I don't have any criteria on here, so I can just test it. It's just, but you would have whatever your criteria is, I want to send to this one person. So here is my email alert with a lightning template. Let's look at what that template looks like. I built my template in the, oh no, what's wrong with my, oh yeah, okay. So I built my template in the lightning template builder. And if I put in some merge fields here, the merge fields in Lightning templates, oops, have a certain type of formatting that does not play nicely with Flow. You can barely see me now. There I am. Okay. So we've saved that. Let's see what this one looks like. Okay, save. Did I save that already? Save as. So if you haven't picked up on it yet, what I'm doing is reviewing all the possible ways to send email through Flow. So again, we are sending this to just this one person. Whenever I edit the record, whoops. It's supposed to send me an email. Okay, we'll wait for that to come in. Hold on, I think I have some from yesterday. That one's being slow with my archived email. Or maybe I didn't do something right in my Flow.
Is the Flow activated?
Great question. Yep. Lightning alert.
Maybe I saw that you had assigned the lead first name field, possibly on the template.
Okay.
Maybe it failed for that reason.
There, it should tell me. Well, let's see. Let's look at my email alert. Okay, email alerts. Lightning template. Lightning template. Oh, okay. It's using one with a different one without a merge field. See what which one that one is. Oh, it's the same thing. Oh, weird. It pulls it up in Classic. Oh, there it is. Ta-da. Okay, this is Boo the dog, the cutest dog on the internet. Hey you. Okay, this is one without the template. Okay, I don't have it set up right. So let's change that to my Lightning template that does have a merge field, which is called, what are you called? Content. Oh, that's one. Okay, got it. I was trying to, anyway, okay, this one, recipient first name. So this one has, let's see if I made another. Anyway, you get a big fat error when you're trying to send this out. Where did it go? So Flow does not like this format. It says we don't have recipient as a merge field. So using my Lightning template with an email alert in Flow does not work for me. When I tried to put in contact, when I try to use the format of Flow itself, it's like, we don't know what you're doing. Or it says, or it's like, I know what you're trying to do, but that's not going to work. So that looks like that formatting is so I don't even have to send the email. I just have to try and save it. And it's like, we don't support those merge fields. Use the merge field picker. So because Lightning templates put in recipient to make it work for both contact and lead. If you're sending from the contact or lead record, it doesn't work when using the email template in Flow. Has anyone gotten it to work? Am I off base here? Okay. I saw some.
Nope, I just ran into this last week.
Oh, okay. Thank you for validating me, Beth. So that's email alerts. So those are for sending to one person at a time using the templates that you already have. So that's one thing I've heard from people. Well, I already have these templates. What do I do with my existing templates? Well, we can paste them into Flow. So let's see where I've got that. So I'm using a text template. Here's my HTML template. And I showed you the one that I said was a more simple one that I stole here from GitHub. So when I go into okay, so text templates are here under your manager or new resource, or we can do this right from the send an email action. So to send an email through Flow without email alerts, I'll go to Action, then search for Send Email, and send email, HTML, paste it in, call it that. Okay, so here's where I tell it what the body of my email is. And I'm going to create a new resource here. And my resource type is going to be a text template. So this is where I'm going to build out this template. Okay, so I'm going to toggle it to view as plain text and then paste in, oops, spoiler alert, that's coming later. I would copy and paste my HTML from my classic template or wherever I am getting it and put it in here. And you type in your subject here, or you can, let me go back to the one that I've already built here. So we're going to do this one, comma separated. I've got an HTML template, HTML pasted in Flow, and I'm going to send this to a comma separated list. So this, I've got 2 email addresses here, and I have to tell it that this is a rich text formatted body. So my text template is rich text, and I do that by toggling on here to include, and then I have to go in and say true. So I'm going to go ahead and make a forward-looking statement because I can. I showed you the warning about that. I would love it if they made us so we didn't have to do this because this is dumb. I don't know if they are though. Okay, so let's try out this one and see what that looks like. So all I'm doing is taking my existing template and pasting it in here. And that gives me, let's see what it looks like. Delete that one. So here it comes. That is a, what? That
You
didn't
need
work.
to activate the flow actually.
Thank you. Well, all right, let's try it again. Didn't activate the flow. There's a lot of suspense in this presentation. There's a lot of, you know, ooh, what is it gonna do, right? Who knows what's gonna happen? Oh, okay, here we go. Any guesses? Look at that. It looks exactly the same as my classic template, just pasted in to my flow. So I can put in some merge fields here too. Let's see. So in my HTML of my, oh, next thing I want to try is what if I have MailChimp template? I thought maybe those would be fancier, something. So I created a MailChimp account. I grabbed all the HTML from the thing. And it looks just the same as well. So you can paste in your HTML into the flow, and it doesn't seem to matter if I toggle it back to rich text or keep it in plain text. When I put it in rich text though, I can't really see all this stuff. Like it's not going to look for you like it looks in the resulting email. So this isn't the place to build it. You can't build out your HTML here, or you can write it, but you're not going to be able to see what it looks like. You could go in here and you could put in your merge fields if you want. But it's not going to look anything like what you want. Next thing is to talk a little bit about who you're sending your email to and how to set that up. So this one I used comma separated list. Another option is to use a collection. Okay, recipient email address collection. So this is a collection variable, and that means I have to add email addresses to a collection. So I want to send this email to everybody in my database. Well, too bad. You can only send it to 5 people this way, 5 email addresses. Using this collection option, you can send it to, I added in like 7 here. So what I'm doing is I have this collection variable. It's a text. So it's a variable that takes a type of text. And I'm saying, okay, add all these emails to that variable. So now it's a collection of email addresses. And when I put that in here, oh, sorry, when I put that in my email and try and send it this way, it works. It only, or does it work? Let's see, because I have in more than 7, it might not even, or more than 5, it might not even work.
I think it's 10. We can't send more than 10 people at a time.
No, as
No,
of last night, it was
5 is
5.
5 is limit here.
So, oh, okay. Well, I wasn't even paying attention to my errors. Lighting template. Okay, these things aren't connected. So I think that's the same warning, but it's going to error out, or it's either going to error out or it's going to tell me. Okay, there we go. Max 5. Give your admin these details because you have a max 5 email address you can send to. So that doesn't work. This is not a mass email tool clearly. So what do I do? Well, let's see. Do I have anything else? Collection, Mailchimp template sender. Okay. So how we send an email to up to 5,000 emails, which is the max you can send out of your org per day, is using a loop. So we would get a collection of all the people we want to send our email to, and we would loop through them, and we can use one of these email actions inside the loop. So I checked with Alex Edelstein, who's product manager for Flow, one of the product managers, and he said, no problem with doing that. So you loop through a collection of records, send your email as you're going through the loop. So that is one way to do a mass email in Flow. The better way to do it is to use, where did this go? Unofficial SF, send better email tool. So this you would install, and this handles tons of things that I didn't get a chance to dive in on, but it's going to give you lots of great features that you don't have in Flow to be able to send mass emails in Flow more easily. One other piece I do know about is how to set up your sender, who you're sending the email from. So this is where you set that up. You say sender email address. So how you do it is you have to have an org-wide email address set up. So those are somewhere. There we go. My org-wide email addresses. So this is like where you have something like info at schoolsoutwashington.org or whatever. And something like that. So you set that up there, you make sure it's a verified email, it has to work, and you say the sender type is org-wide email address. You toggle those both on, and then you can set up the sender. Otherwise, the sender is the person who triggers the flow. So in this case, it would be the person who modified that record, would be the user who's sending that email. And I have a blog post for you on that. You've seen it now, so you should remember how to do it. I don't know where the Zoom shares the chat. I will paste that in there. Oh, if you can still see this, I have this great tool called FlyCut that is like captures things that have been in my clipboard so I can find them again. Okay, I think that is all I have to say right now about emails in Flow. Does anyone have any questions?
Jesse, that was awesome. You covered so many different elements.
Yeah, thanks.
And I do have one quick question. You might,
yeah,
I think it's a quick question. You might have just saved an organization a lot of headache. Pardot, one of their newer features is to use the email template builder. And I know of a few organizations who have a hard time because it's not as fluid as MailChimp is. It's not at that, as far as like a UI perspective and designing and placing things in your email. So there's this bit of a strife between I want to use Pardot because it's integrated with Salesforce or MailChimp because it looks slicker. Is it possible that you could build out a really slick looking email in MailChimp, copy paste that HTML, and then use Pardot's email template builder, which I believe to be the same as the Salesforce email template builder, and then deliver your emails that way?
I don't know. I don't know much about Pardot, unfortunately. Oh, but I was supposed to say for mass emails, Salesforce is not a mass email tool. Please purchase Marketing Cloud or Pardot. Oh, which I think now has a new name.
Pardot?
I think so.
They changed it to something like Salesforce customers. It has like Salesforce experience and something else in the name. It's something along, and I don't know.
Another thing I can say, so you could give that a try. You could try pasting in your MailChimp. I did it. I have a free account. It works. Other thing I just want to plug is that Salesforce does not have a built-in capability for handling unsubscribes. Oh, I see I have some hands, so I will get to you in just a second. So I have a package on the App Exchange for that includes a complicated flow for handling unsubscribes. So if you're not going to use Pardot or Marketing Cloud, but you are sending out commercial email through Salesforce, you want to include this unsubscribe link. Thanks, Nash. Appreciate you being here. So that you are conforming with the canned, oh wait, you're not in the same country as me. So never mind. You probably have laws up there that are even stricter than ours regarding spam. So down here, any commercial email needs, or promotional, even if you're a nonprofit, needs to have an unsubscribe link. So that, sorry, we're running out of time. May I answer your question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Great presentation. One question related with email is a use case, like, so when you send the email from Salesforce, right? How the email will link back when people reply? Link back, for example, you send an email from a case, right? When the user reply the email, how this will link back to the case
Great question. This doesn't do any of that. There's nothing at all built in here for that. Let me see if I can find, I have a post for you on how to log an email to the contact record. So you bring up a really good point that I should have brought up, which is you send these emails out through Flow. As I've shown you, it doesn't connect anything back to anywhere. There is no record that this was ever sent. This post that I've pasted here shows you how to connect it back to your contact record. You could probably do the same to connect it to your case. But when they respond, there's nothing, I don't know how to do that. Cases has its own built-in thing, but otherwise I don't know how you would do that.
I've dealt with this. I just dealt with this.
Okay.
Because of, as anyone who's in Service Cloud knows that, the new way of Salesforce's new way of having message headers. And I don't know what the technical reason is, why it's difficult for them to build a way of sending emails from Flow where you could insert the case date, whatever the data is, into the message header that Salesforce itself is doing. I would love if they would do that, but the workaround that I found was to use macros and to use bulk macros. It is possible to do a bulk macro from a list view. It will do up to 200, which of course sometimes that's not, you need something like thousands or something, but that's still pretty good, 200. And so you can send case, things that are from the case, you have to use classic email templates. You have to use classic email templates. You can create the macro. You have to be using, of course, Service Cloud with the feed. But you can do it that way. You can't, in order for it to be bulk macro, there's other rules. You can't update the case in that macro. You can't update the case fields. It'll invalidate it as a bulk macro. It would be something you can't run in bulk, but you can send emails.
Thank you. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay. But that sounds like it's not a straightforward a solution, right? It's a workaround.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
John.
Thank you, Jesse. I've learned quite a bit from your presentation. I have two questions about sending the email from Float. I haven't actually done this yet. I didn't even realize we could use org-wide email addresses in there, and I'm curious.
You need to subscribe to my blog, John. Jeez.
I cannot read anything.
I revoke your BFF title. Okay.
Oh no! I'll read the whole blog today. Don't worry.
Okay, good.
Is the org-wide where you select what type of email it is? You have to say org-wide email address. Is it you have to? I couldn't.
You have to type it in. You have to type
it in. Well, that's annoying.
Yeah. So I got someone who said to me, I am in France. I speak French. My org is in French. This is me doing French. What's the?
Remember, you're talking to Canadians. There could be.
Yeah, I know. This is I'm making fun of people from France, not from Canada. Yeah, she said, what do you type in for this in French? It's like, I don't know. So there's no pick list value if your org is in French.
Do you just have to? They would have to type org-wide email address.
I don't. No, she said it didn't work.
Oh.
Yeah.
Weird.
Okay.
I should say it's the, and if you do have to look at the documentation, and remember this is a community effort, right? Unofficial SF is volunteers, so
yeah,
you do have to remember that in the org-wide email address you have to put in the ID of the org-wide email address, the Salesforce ID, not the email address itself. So, I mean, that's what I use using Send Better Email.
Oh, okay. In Send Better Email, that would be different than the standard in the just in a regular flow send email action. You just type in the email address.
Yes,
okay, thank you.
For an org-wide email address and Send Better Email, you have to use the actual ID of the org-wide email.
Got it. John, did you have another question? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of connected, and it's just I'm wondering about deliverability. Like, do we know? I always have this anxiety because I mean, with an email sender like MailChimp, you have this window into the number of bounces. You have this window into performance, so you might get this sense of who's going to, what's going to spam or not. Yeah. And do we have any idea on the performance of these? So if I start sending emails, just like regular transactional, like, here's your receipt, here's your thank you for your donation. Are we confident? I mean, I've been operating on the assumption that they land in people's inboxes, right? For my entire last couple of years.
I am confident.
You're confident?
I'm confident.
Okay.
And yeah, totally.
I'm semi-confident.
Like, I mean,
land in inboxes versus in spam.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, it depends on what, that's true. I don't know if it has, like, you put some text in your tests that are like, want to buy some, these sort of supplements, something that are going to be tagged by spam and check it out. I don't, so you're right. I haven't sent anything very spammy to test it. So again, this is not a mass email tool. Please purchase Marketing Cloud or whatever. Sandy.
Yeah, there's an interesting conversation going on in the chat that is similar to what my question is. Mirali, I hope that's how I pronounce it. She just posted an idea exchange. Workflow email alerts to contacts should be recorded as activity history. And Beth also dropped into it with a +1 on that idea. She's been creating tasks to record an email send from Flow. This is where I'm going with my question, and maybe this is the improved email, or I'm very new to what I'm about to introduce, but enhanced email, where an email goes out, you can look on a contact's activity history and you can see that it's gone out and whether it's been opened or not. So what I was starting to investigate was, how can I build that into a flow? What records do I need to, or what objects do I need to be able to work with to do this? And I had the question in mind, but I never took it further
If
than
you
that.
scroll back up in the chat at 11:28 a.m., well, my time, just a few minutes ago, I posted my blog post about how to connect it to how to create an email message record so it'll show up on your contacts. So it's not a task. So back in the day, you could have your tasks show up. Emails could show up as tasks in Classic, something like that, when sent through workflow. Now it's much better to create an email message record and log it on your contact. I don't know though if that's going to give you the enhanced email features of send, if they've opened it or not. That part I haven't tested. But that's a really good question.
Cool. This is great.
Yeah.
Can we send attachment in the Flow email alert using?
Oh, can you send an attachment? Oh, that's a good question.
And
Not
Siang,
in here.
Siang, I think you are muted right now, but it looks like you've got a question.
Yeah, basically, as Jesse mentioned, for commercial email sending using Marketing Cloud, because Marketing Cloud Connect, which integrates with Salesforce. So all the commercial sender profile, bounces, and tracking, everything will be tracked, synced back from connector back to Sales Cloud.
Yes.
Using products, you don't have to, well, if you really send massive email or more commercial email, you could, let's say, track back to the salesperson. In the cases for using Connect is really helpful, because you can enable the tracking and all these features we talk about are available. So that's what I want to say. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah.
Somebody asked about attachments, and I don't see that you can attach files in the standard send email feature. I would check with, can you have, I don't even remember, can you have attachments on classic email templates?
Yes, we do have.
Okay. So that would be one thing to test, if it's in a email alert with a classic template, to see if the file is attached that way. I do not know. And we can see if in unofficial SF, you can attach files in the send better email. Attach files, yes, you can. In send better email through unofficial SF.
What is send better email? Like what does that refer to?
Oh, sorry, that is a managed package from unofficial SF that will make up for a lot of the pitfalls that we have mentioned here when sending email through Flow. So it looks, I haven't tested it out, but it looks pretty fancy. And it's built by Alex Edelstein, who is building stuff for the Flow product. So a lot of these things are just being moved into the core product regularly. So that's pretty great.
Awesome. I think we might have done it.
Yeah.
Good job, Jesse. And by the way,
thanks.
Jesse was on a session, I think 2 weeks ago, Flowsome with Jennifer Lee. Automate this, sorry. Yeah. Check it out. I think it was loops that you were going through in that one.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very
if you're interested in learning loops, just look for Automate This on the Salesforce blog. All about loops. And it's a hands-on training session with a guide, so you can walk through how to do it.
Cool. Todd, don't sweat it. This is happening during working hours too, so I understand it's tricky. Awesome. Well, I think we've finished with the official portion of this meeting. How did I do for my first meeting group? Did it work out?
So great.
It was awesome.
Cool.
Great job.
So for those who want to jump off, that's totally cool. For anyone else who wants to try and tackle one more use case, I do have one up my sleeve. But yeah, feel free. If you need to jump, you need to jump. But thank you for coming.
All
for
right.
those.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse.
Thank
Glad
you.
to have you
You're
guys.
welcome. Sure.
You
Bye.
too, John. Thank you.
Everyone.
I'm good to stay on. I'm curious about what Sandy has.
All right. You sure? You're brave. I love it. Okay, let me pull up some screen. I was opening stuff in the background while we were doing all this. Wrong button. Almost there, guys. Almost there.
No, hit
That's
that
what I want.
part, right?
Okie dokie. Here's my use case. Move some things around, make it bigger for you to see. Here's the use case that I have. From a list view, users want to mass update a pick list field on a contact to approved. Once that mass update is complete, finance team needs to get a notification email that there was a mass update done. If a user is not authorized to do this and tries to make this update happen, they want to have a pop-up error message. Simple enough. Three things to try and tackle here. And let me come on now. There we go. And I've logged out already of my Trailblazer community. That's a drag. This is going to take me a second to pull it up, but if you want to have ideas, how would you do this without even seeing a Salesforce instance in front of you? How would you approach it while I pull something up?
The first question would be, if they're mass updating, should finance you really want one email, or because you don't want like 100 emails going to finance?
That's right. That's right. It needs to be like a whole bunch of things have been updated. One email goes to the finance team rather than for every record that is updated. Correct. So the very first one is, hey, I want to work from a list view and I want to update a status, pick list status field. That is out of the box available by using inline editing, right? And then boom, update them all.
But the idea that you're creating a collection, basically.
Correct. Now, if it was just send the email, what type of flow would I need to use?
Just one email.
Just one email. So it wouldn't be a record triggered flow, right? Because that would be that would fire on every record, which we don't want.
So okay, then the other question is, do you need is there some sort of record keeping that you need? Like, do we need a record? Okay, we have a record that this was done on each contact, but do you need to save a record of like, okay, this set of 200 were changed at this time?
No.
Like, because I'm thinking like then you have a custom object or something where you're saving like these transactions. But if
I see where you're going. Yeah, but no, we don't need to go to that level.
You don't need that. I wonder instead, I know that, see, a lot of times people say their use case in terms of specific things that they know. So they're aware of list views, but really and then you have to take what they're saying and interpret what they're saying. So what they're saying is they want a list of some sort. They want a list that maybe they can define, because a list view is something that they can define, but a list where they can attempt to update a field. And then when, of course, whether that happens or not, based on permissions and so forth, but then based on that, a collection of a set of information, which we'll have to define exactly what that is, gets sent to a certain email address. The reason I'm saying to be flexible about the definition of what that list is, because when you're updating many records, right? So if you did a record triggered flow, those are like every single one, which could be fine if we then basically had every single one update something in common, whether it becomes a parent object or some sort of record, but then that layers in a whole level of complexity that I don't know if you need. Yeah, but that's one option is to basically for those actions to update one thing to then trigger something that's en masse done.
Oh, I see. And that's why we were going. Yeah. I get your logic. We have a mass update that happens, and then let's say a record gets created in a custom object, which then fires that off. I see where you're going.
But then another option would be to not use a list view, but to use a data table in Flow, which can look like a list view. And can be you can even you can define filters. You can have people define things in a certain way. I've had list views live. I've had data tables live on pages.
And now data tables have gone into GA, right? It doesn't have to come from unofficial. Like I can't bring in something from unofficial SF because it's external to Salesforce without jumping through a few hoops. But that's actually a really interesting point. And then I can surface that. That's coming from a screen flow in this case, right?
So yeah, so that then you could pull the data, because I'm thinking if you don't need to create an object and create records, if you don't want, I mean, that could be useful. So you might want to think about that option, but then if it's within Flow, then I can just take that information and manipulate it. So I can take it and create a collection of whatever information I need of all those records.
Okay.
To then create a single email.
Okay, this is where I'm going. Can I kind of come at it from the other side and sort of show you where I've gotten to and then where I got stuck? The approach that I was working on is actually a button, and it's right here. It's update status flow. Clicking this. So if I was to select a whole bunch of records and click this flow, we'll be passing these records into the flow, and this is actually where I get kind of caught up.
So you are creating a collection that way.
Yes. Now, in my Googleizing,
okay,
what I read was that the only way that I can pass records in this manner from a list view of selected records, clicking a button, that the variable that's collecting the data on the other side has to be a text variable, and it has to be named IDs in exactly that format.
Interesting.
In my testing, that has worked.
Okay.
So let me just collapse this for a second. So I'm not showing you the production instance. This is a simplified version, but you click that button, a whole bunch of record IDs get written into this collection variable.
Okay.
The flow checks, is the user allowed to make this change? And if they're not, then they get a little pop-up message saying, sorry, can't do it.
Yep.
If they are allowed, ultimately, we're going to send this finance notification first, but what has to happen first is those fields need to be updated. So in my production instance, when I had done this, I created a loop. The loop, let's give it any old name here. The loop can grab that ID, right? Or sorry, that collection variable, I should say. And then what I did next was a terrible thing. I put a DML element within these are them, within the loop, which you are not supposed to do. Right, and because it creates governor issues. And basically I said, okay, for each item that passes through the loop, go and update the value to what I want it to be. And that crashed on me. So I thought to myself, what would make a lot more sense before running through this loop? I'm actually just going to delete this for the sake of cleanliness. Why don't I get the records, like actually pull the records in that are coming from this text piece, this text variable, and that's where I'm stuck.
Well, wait a second. Do you need to get them? Because if you're just updating a set of ID, the IDs. You
have the IDs sitting in a text format within the flow. Correct. Yes.
You've got that. So you want to, but maybe you do need to get it. And wait, what are you updating them with? Is it all the same data?
Yeah, the pick list value is the same for all these updates.
Okay. So it's updating all the same thing. Oh, okay. So you want to basically just update a collection.
Yeah. But I don't have, pardon me, I don't have any reference to a contact object so far. Like this has no idea that we're even talking about contacts. All this flow knows is, hey, I got a whole bunch of text of record IDs. What do I do with it?
Can you just do an update? I'm not sure. I haven't tried this. Can you update a collection without getting
I
it?
don't think so.
You just do update records and then do
Oh my God, don't tell me it's that easy. Let's just call it one. If it's that easy, then that would
specify conditions. Specify conditions has to be the checkbox for the radio button for specify conditions. And then it's of this type. So you tell it you're talking about contacts.
I want to talk about the contact. I want to do, oh, I see. So my ID
but then wait
is equal what's like, how is it pulling it out
I see.
of this text variable,
Yeah.
which is essentially just a string of comma separated IDs.
Yeah.
I think I can't reference it.
How do you do that?
Beth, I'm wondering if you've ever run into a scenario like this, because it seems like something that should be relatively approachable.
I've never tried to get words from just a list of IDs like that.
Wait a second. Is it that? Hold on. So I didn't mean to cut you off. That was not the right thing for me to say.
Oh, contains?
Well, here's the thing is that they just rolled out with a new operator in, which is for some reason not here. I just spun this up like this morning. This is a Trailhead org. For some reason that operator's not showing up here. But could I potentially say, find an ID that is in, and then that would allow me to look at a text collection variable?
That's what I would
exactly what
try.
that'd be for.
Yeah, that seems like exactly what that would be for, but I haven't had a chance to try that new operator yet.
I would love to spin up the client's site, but I can't do that. For I don't
The I tuned out for a second. I apologize if someone's already said this, that there is in Apex, when you do a SOAP query, like the in function, and then you can pass in a list of IDs to that. And that's, typically how you get a large list of records in Apex. I'm just presuming because all these people that they passed in there to that, because this is exactly one of those things where I do this all the time in Apex, and I would like to do it in Flow, and it's one of the restrictions that it has, right? If in, so I'm assuming. I mean, I've never heard of this in. I'm just like, well, if they put in there, it probably works this way, and you're probably completely right.
Okay, so prior to this, when I did have that loop element that could go through this text variable, grab the record, and do an update within the loop variable. That worked on its own until I ran into governor limits. So
yeah, you would do an assign.
An assign, right? But I need to. My first step. What my brain's thinking. Okay.
You have to have a variable for the current. I mean, when you're creating a loop, it's going to create a variable for the current record. So you would assign the current record, assign the value within to that record, but then you create a collection. You add.
But I need to define that it's a contact record first, right? So wouldn't I need to have a get before my loop kicks off?
Good. I don't. That's a good question. I don't.
Yeah, that seems. I mean, you could try it and see what happens. Is what I would do.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, but I think Fred, is it? You're right. You need to assign the updates to the.
But it needs to reference that field that it needs to know that I'm working with a contact and I'm wanting to update a specific. So I think I do need to have a get record just to provide the flow context.
So you can get all of them, get them as a collection.
Yeah. Oh, hold on, sorry, I got too much stuff in my way. And I don't know why this isn't doing it. No, it's not, is it? Nope. Okay, cool. I actually appreciate this, the validation of talking through my situation and no one's like, aha, you silly person, it's this. It's like, okay, I haven't been banging my head on a wall for no reason.
I have to say that, but I would use, of course, because it's, I'm working in my own org, so it's easy for me. I set the rules, but I would use one of the collection components from unofficial SF. Because they have a bunch of collection things you can do with collections.
I was trying to go think about it from a different way. Let's say I do use a standard update from a list view. That's going to create some sort of a platform event. Not that I am a developer at all, but if I could recognize that this type of action from this list view, this UI, creates a platform event, then I could build a flow that would trigger based on that. But that's really outside of my expertise. I don't know. I just don't know.
The individual, you need to collect them somehow.
Yeah, see, like if I was just doing the standard list view update en masse, that's fine. I've taken care of my contact record. The only thing that's left in my use case really is send the email.
I think what you're doing makes a lot of sense. You know, the fact that you can use launch a flow from a list view and collect the data that you want. It's just a matter of manipulating that data within the flow.
Oh, here's an idea. I'm using a button. That's not it. It's all right up here. And I'm passing this into the flow via the flow's URL. Can I use a URL parameter to feed into a record ID? That's the default URL parameter of the flow. Like, can we? Sorry, that's the default URL of the flow. I don't know. Things to explore. Has anyone ever tried doing that? No. Okay, that's okay. Cool. Stuff to experiment with. This is why we play in Salesforce. Okay, everybody. Thank you. I think we did it. I got people scratching their heads. I think there's been a lot of ideas going on, and I appreciate it from everybody. But we did it. 3 o'clock. Right on.
Absolutely. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. And John and Beth, I really appreciate everything.
Pleasure to meet
thanks
you
for
all.
having us.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. Take it easy.